and welcome back to yet another exciting week of the Lazy Money Game. In this week's episode, I will talk about the importance of doing nothing. That might sound quite strange to you, that it can be important to do nothing. So of course I will have to elaborate much more on this. But first I will start by giving an update to my portfolio. So let's immediately jump to a portfolio overview. The first thing we notice is that there was a red circle for this week's episode. If we go to the portfolio values tab, we can see that the portfolio is down close to $4,000 within this week. If we then continue to my favorites tab, namely the dividends tab, then we can see nothing has happened here since I haven't received any dividends. If we then go back to the overview arc and scroll all the way to the top, just so you can look at each individual position in the portfolio. So as promised, that was a very quick overview of the portfolio. If I may turn your attention to the history tab, since I have done a small update in here, since I have added a profit loss column in column E, and I have used conditional formatting. So if I have been selling with a loss, it will now display a red color. If I have been selling at a profit, it will then display a green color. And it goes for all the investing in the portfolio. And as always, if you want to make use of this new feature, you can just go to File and click Make Copy to get your own copy yourself. So let me now turn your attention to the importance of doing nothing. How can it be important to do nothing, and why is it actually so hard to do nothing? Because doing nothing sounds very simple. Most people will say, easy, of course I can do nothing. But apparently when it comes to investing, doing nothing is a lot harder than it looks. So for instance, in my case, Beatrice, I am down more than 28%. Why is it important for me to do nothing here? Well, as long as I don't sell, then I don't have a realized loss of more than $4,000. If I decide to act on this, then I will have a realized loss of $4,000. But since I haven't lost faith in the company, I should do nothing. Well, how about if we, instead of looking at Beatrice, take a look at AbbVie? Since here I'm up more than 40%, why is it still important for me to do nothing? Well, if I sell now, then of course I will have a gain of more than $5,000. But what do I get for that? Well, of course I get the satisfaction of satisfying my short-term need to say, I made it. I really made more than $5,000 from a single investment. But what is my headache that I will get? Well, then I will have to do more research and more due diligence on other companies to put my money in, instead of just relying on the work that I have already done. And when I look to my guidelines, I fundamentally have 3 reasons for why I want to sell a business. If I believe that it is highly overvalued, if they are cutting their dividend, or if I have lost faith in the company. Currently, none of those 3 criteria are met for AbbVie. So I would rather save myself the trouble of doing more research and more due diligence on other companies and simply just do nothing here. If we, instead of looking at AbbVie, continue to some more controversial investments like General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin, I am not the only one who have noticed that these weapon manufacturers have starting to increase a lot in value since the 24th of February, where Putin started this horrible invasion of Ukraine. So all of a sudden, a lot of people are starting to talk about perhaps it is more morally correct or more ethically okay to start investing in companies like these. Well, I haven't changed my view towards companies like these. Of course, I would prefer to live in a world where there wouldn't be a need for their product, but I never think that that will be the case in my lifetime. And since there will always be a need for the product, that is why I want to have exposure to this sector. If you're then asking yourself about whether I would consider selling now, since I, in General Dynamics, am up more than 50%, then I would again look to my guidelines and say, well, I don't fundamentally believe that I have lost faith in this company, and I certainly do not believe that they are highly overvalued. At the moment, you can say that the fundamentals for companies like these has actually changed. What I need to be aware about, at some point in the future, there might not be the same demand for the product which there currently are. But I mean, this is not solved within a day or two. This will take much longer. So that is why I will still do nothing and keep holding on to my investment. So now that I have explained the idea of doing nothing and why it is so important, I think it is time for me to give credit where credit is due, since this is unfortunately not my idea. I am heavily inspired by someone who is much smarter than me and who has really thought this through. So I would recommend a book called Common Stocks, Uncommon Profits by Philip A. Fisher, or of course The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. Here you can really learn a lot about why it is so important to do nothing once you have actually put down a lot of work to do your investments in the first place. And while we're on the topic of doing nothing, I was delighted to see this news article from ABC7 that over 20,000 West Coast port workers are refusing to load or unload Russian vessels with Russian cargo coming into their ports. I mean, this action speaks much louder than words. And what made me so happy about this news was they did this before this sanction actually came into place. Or I mean, we of course only put sanctions towards countries which are at war. So to follow the logic from Putin, this is of course not a sanction, so I have to rephrase myself and say this is just a special economic operation which all the Western countries are currently taking towards Russia. I will of course leave a link in the description so you can go and see this clip for yourself. And the next news item that I want to show you is apparently Renault is reluctant to leave Russia since they make a lot of money over there and have a lot of business. But I mean, if 20,000 port workers on the west coast of the United States can refuse to load or unload cargo from ships entering or leaving any of their ports, then we as consumers should be able to make this a fairly easy decision for Renault to decide to leave Russia, simply saying we will not buy your product as long as you keep producing over there. So the profit that you stand to make in the Western world should go to zero as long as you operate over there. So make it a fairly easy decision if you're considering buying a new car or buying spare parts. Please look elsewhere than Renault until they have decided to leave. So that actually sums it up for yet another exciting week of the Lazy Money Game. So now you know the importance of doing nothing. And at the same time, I have hopefully also encouraged you to do something and contribute to help the people of Ukraine. Since perhaps you're sitting and thinking, my actions are not really stopping that war. Well, if we are enough people uniting, then we have a real possibility to change the outcome. I mean, in Denmark, there was a collection yesterday evening, and Danish companies and ordinary Danish citizens managed to pool more than 165 million Danish kroner to support Ukraine through a lot of these helping organizations. So as long as we all do something, we might change that outcome. So please do something. And until I see you next time, bye.